Let's get legal perspective now from criminal law specialist Lou Shapiro. Lou, thanks for joining us again. Before we get into specifics about the indictment itself, can you walk us through what we can expect on Tuesday? We've seen this play out already in Manhattan with the hush money arraignment, but now this is in Miami and this is dealing with federal charges.
So the arraignment process for federal court is not all that different for state. It should be a relatively quick process where obviously there's going to be full security and so forth. Apparently they're collaborating with local police department as well. But the former president will be with his attorneys, will be given the option of being read all the charges or waiving his right to be heard all the charges. He will probably waive that right because there's so many of them and there's really no need for the judge to read them all to him. He will then be asked to enter a plea. Of course, it will be a not guilty plea. And then the issues of release versus bail will come up. And in spite of the fact that there are so many charges, because he's the former president, he doesn't really present any kind of flight risk or danger to the public in a sense of like an issue of violence or weapons or things like that of that nature. So we can expect that the judge will simply be releasing him without having to post any kind of bond or bail or anything of that nature. It should be probably a 1 to 2 hour process at the most. Only because of who he is. It's going to take a little longer with security modifications and concerns in place. But short of that, it'll be done pretty quickly.
And Lou, I want to read an excerpt directly from the DOJ indictment and then get your thoughts. Quote, in July 2021 at Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey, the Bedminster Club, during an audio recorded meeting with a writer, a publisher, and 2 members of his staff, none of whom possessed a security clearance, Trump showed and described a, quote, plan of attack that Trump said was prepared for him by the Department of Defense and a senior military official. Trump told the individuals that the plan was, quote, highly confidential and secret. Trump also said, quote, as president, I could have declassified it and now I can't, you know, but this is still a secret, unquote. So Trump has claimed he declassified everything. This quote seems to undercut that while alleging he was showing these sensitive documents to multiple other people. People perhaps like to overuse the term smoking gun. Do you see this as one?
It's too early at this stage of the game to really make that determination. Remember, these are accusations at this point. No evidence has been presented. Discovery hasn't been provided to the former president. So these are accusations. Supposedly there's a recording. Supposedly he said X, Y, Z. But again, we've all heard stories where supposedly something happens, and then when you peel the layers, it's an entirely different story. It could be that he was maybe speaking in general terms, not specific terms. Maybe there wasn't even such a document or such a plan out there, and he was just saying it to show off, so to speak. So there are many possibilities to what this, this alleged recording is, but it's really early in the game to determine how much weight to give to it.
And the indictment overall lays out a lot of evidence and seems, pretty clear even for people who are not professional, legal professionals. It seems like a lot of stuff to have to defend yourself against. What do you think Trump's defense might look like here? What would you advise?
So Trump is going to take a strong stance using the Presidential Records Act. He's already made reference to it in the past. And what it is after Nixon was president, there was a concern that he was going to be destroying documents. So a law was passed that a president can't just destroy documents. They have to hand them over to the National Archives. But how long that has to take place, how much time a former president has to do that, that is ambiguous. The act says as soon as possible or as soon as he leaves office. But again, you have to look at presidents subsequent to Nixon to see how long it took them to provide all those documents. So we've had several presidents since. So that will provide some sort of precedence, maybe not legal precedence, but some customs or habits of how that was conducted. And that's why the Justice Department fired back when the Presidential Records Act was raised by the Trump camp and said, well, it's never taken this long previously. Well, just because it hasn't taken this long doesn't mean it's necessarily a violation of the requirement. So that's going to be his strongest stance. Of course, the way it was sort of like not open to the public, but the way it was maybe, in the bathroom or in a banquet hall, that obviously those don't have good optics. But in terms of, is it a federal offense to convict a former president of the United States of such charges? That's another story.
And a Trump-appointed judge who was previously under scrutiny for her rulings in this very case earlier on in the investigation is going to be the one overseeing it, at least at first. How do you think that's going to impact the proceedings?
Well, you have, obviously, there's always the concern of if Trump appointed a particular judge, is that judge going to be more favorable to Trump or not? That could be a concern. At the same time, this is routine. Presidents have to appoint judges, and justices will naturally be deciding on issues that relate to things that come out of the presidency, laws, bills, and so forth. So I don't think it's going to take a front and center role in this case. I think the bigger argument's going to be, why am I being prosecuted, but not Biden? Or not Clinton for the emails, not Biden for having classified documents in garage, not Clinton for having destroyed all those emails, but me, I'm the one who gets prosecuted. And his argument's going to be, if you're prosecuting me, you have to prosecute everybody else. Otherwise, it amounts to a witch hunt, and there might be something to be said to that as this case proceeds forward.
Well, that arraignment coming up in Miami on Tuesday, and then we do expect probably a long legal battle ahead and possibly more charges. Criminal law specialist Lou Shapiro, thanks as always for your time and perspective on this.
You got to see you soon.